Betty Page, born in 1923 in Nashville, stood out as a pinup model in the U.S. In the 1950s, she posed for calendar shoots and photographic series by Irving Klaw, including fetishist themes, and cemented the bangs haircut as her trademark. Her role helped shape visual standards of popular culture and debates about morality and censorship. In 1953, the international circus circuit witnessed the rise of Pinito del Oro, a Spanish aerialist who took the trapeze without a net to new standards. On long tours in Europe and the Americas, she performed timed routines, apparatus changes, and controlled falls, consolidating a repertoire that combined calculated risk, technical discipline, and mass appeal. In 1957, Paris established itself as a European cultural center. The City of Light kept neighborhood cafes crowded, where intellectuals debated politics and art. Boulevards displayed 19th-century architecture alongside post-war renovations. Studios and fashion houses dictated trends, and daily life mixed economic reconstruction with bohemian living. In World War I, exposing one's head above the trenches meant certain death. Snipers would take down observers. In response, French engineers developed camouflaged posts in the form of hollow trees on the front line. Installed at night, they replaced real trunks and allowed continuous enemy surveillance with lower risk. In 1969, in the park, a mother placed her baby in a crate while she crocheted. The improvisation served as a portable crib and reflected less standardized patterns of childcare, when vigilance and safety were understood more flexibly. A common practice at the time, today it would be viewed with strangeness and criticism in urban public spaces. If you love the Wild West and enjoy vintage pinup portraits, I've left a bonus for you in the pinned comment: a pack with 50 vintage cowgirl posters, available for a limited time. On the night of August 5, 1931, in New York, Elsie Connor stepped into the ring on Broadway. A champion, she faced both her opponent and the audience under the watchful eye of the press. Her presence, amid the economic crisis and rigid gender norms, marked a chapter in the history of women's boxing and the public debate on women's place in sports. Around 1963, Annette Funicello, former member of the Mickey Mouse Club, and by then a constant figure in the beach films of the time, cruised around Los Angeles in a customized purple Ford Thunderbird. The car symbolized the transition of young television stars into pop stardom and reflected California's post-war car culture. Around 1948, a rare negative appeared that, once developed, revealed a chromatic portrait of Times Square, New York. The image, the product of techniques still expensive in the post-war period, captures neon signs, streetcars, and pedestrian flows. As a historical source, it condenses urban habits, the entertainment economy, and the fast pace of the metropolis. In 1967, a photograph captured Diana Frances Spencer, then a child of the British aristocracy. She posed before the camera in a domestic setting, in a United Kingdom undergoing cultural and media transformation. Years later, she would be known as Princess Diana. The image suggests the public figure that would emerge in the following decade, already under intense scrutiny. In London in 1972, the Raleigh chopper became a symbol of the streets. With high handlebars, an elongated seat, and wheels of different sizes, it offered headlight options, bringing the bicycle closer to the motorcycle imaginary. The model marked British youth consumption, reflecting new urban practices and the pop culture of that period, influencing exports as well. Alice Walker, writer and activist from the U.S., graduated from Spelman and Sarah Lawrence, took part in the civil rights movement, and published novels, short stories, and essays. In 1983, for The Color Purple, 1982, she became the first Black woman to receive the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, a milestone that broadened the debate on race, gender, and power in literature. In 1864, photographer Felice Beato captured the portrait of a Japanese samurai. Produced in a studio, The image shows formal attire and the daisho at the waist, marking status and military function. Made in the context of Japan's opening and the tensions of the end of the Tokugawa shogunate, the photograph offers a rare visual testimony of the warrior order in transition. In 1974, buying a television mobilized the whole family. In stores, lines and demonstrations attracted attention. Tube models dominated, common in black and white. For bigger budgets, the newly popular color sets. Salespeople explained sizes, channels, and warranties. Larger screens were expensive and became the center of the living room, a sign of domestic modernization. In 1949, Eartha Kitt was photographed in front of the University of Istanbul. The image, produced during a trip across post-war Europe, places the artist at the crossroads of North American entertainment and Turkish modernization. Sober clothing and firm posture indicate stage control. The academic setting reinforces the dialogue between cosmopolitanism and tradition. Catherine Bach, a figure of 1970s television culture, became an icon by merging fashion and mass media on broadcast TV. In commercials and by the end of the decade in The Dukes of Hazzard, her look, short shorts, boots, and fitted shirt, synthesized country trends and sex appeal, expressing the ideal of youthful freedom of the era in the U.S. In 1977, photographer Henry Gilpin captured the shot titled Seascape. In black and white, the scene fixes the horizon and rough sea in sharp lines. The framing leads the eye from the foreground to the distant waves, imposing scale and rhythm. The result places the viewer in the vast calm of the ocean and records the stillness of the maritime environment. In 1902, Kodak's British office on Clerkenwell Road functioned as a hub for commercial and technical coordination. From there came contracts, support for resellers, and guidance for photographers. The unit managed the import of cameras and films, organized demonstrations, and spread standards that consolidated the company's leadership in the sector. In 1890, a photographer captured the portrait of a young Lakota woman. The image, produced in the context of colonial expansion and pressures on the plains, highlights cultural traits and a serene posture. The young woman's gaze combines curiosity and knowledge passed down through generations, signaling a bond with the land and the continuity of her people in North America. In 1972, actress Susan Dey was photographed alongside her cat, Bruner. The image, published in magazines of the time, shows the actress outside the studios, holding the animal in her lap, and reveals the domestic habits of young American TV stars, marking the dialogue between private life and pop culture at the beginning of the 70s. In 1979, model and actress Deborah Jo Fondren was photographed at a roller disco party in Los Angeles. It captured a type of urban leisure typical of the late decade: a lit rink, disco soundtrack, and skates as social interaction. In the frame, Fondren occupies the center, symbol of youth culture in the United States and the transition to the 1980s. In 1984, Motorola launched the Dynatac 8000X, the first commercial cell phone. Weighing about 900 G, it operated on analog networks and offered 30 minutes of talk time per charge. Sold for US $3,995, it marked the transition from car phones to handhelds, opening the initial phase of mobile telephony in the context of deregulation and cellular networks. In 1961, on the streets of New York, William Claxton captured Natalie Wood in a snapshot that would become emblematic. The image shows the actress pausing between commitments, walking naturally. At the height of her career, the portrait articulates the presence of the star with urban life and integrates the tradition of street photography. In 1954, Jackie Kennedy captured, in front of a mirror, an image with her husband John and her sister-in-law Ethel. The casual gesture anticipated self-portrait practices that would become popular decades later. At the time, the term selfie was not in circulation. It was a domestic experiment with the camera, revealing intimacy and technical curiosity. In 1954, at Archbodercher's dairy farm in Fresno, California, a photograph shows the cats Blackie and Brownie receiving streams of milk during milking. The scene, common on rural properties in the region, reveals post-war manual practices and the functional coexistence between workers, cattle, and domestic animals. In the 1940s, Paulette Goddard, born June 3, 1910 in New York, established herself in Hollywood. She moved from vaudeville and late silent films to perform in comedies and dramas, including alongside Chaplin. At Paramount, she became a constant presence, an example of rigor and versatility in the classical period. In the 1960s, Jimi Hendrix was photographed in a domestic moment. He leans to place a record on the turntable. The scene reveals a listening ritual common among musicians of the time. One notices contained focus, precise gesture, and the fine line between private life and artistic practice. The scene points to listening habits before the spread of the cassette. In 1954, photographer Thurston Hopkins captured a striking image, a boy hidden in a coal hole. The scene documents the urban fringes of post-war Britain, when child labor persisted and informality filled shortages. The photo made public the harsh daily life of early labor and constant risk, exposing the structural inequalities of the time. In World War II, raw material shortages affected the bicycle industry. In Germany, to circumvent rubber rationing, the Army adopted the Herrenrad Victoria, a military model that replaced conventional tires with rings of metal springs, reducing dependence on rubber and ensuring mobility in liaison and patrol services. In 1960, a Turkish oil company launched an unusual campaign to promote its products and services. Inspired by post-war modernization, the piece showed, step by step, how oil-powered cars, heated homes, produced plastics, and supplied workshops and highways, connecting daily consumption to service stations and the National Progress Project. Mexican surrealist painter Octavio Ocampo established himself in the late 20th century with illusory compositions. His work combines symbolism, metamorphoses, and juxtapositions that call for slow reading. In Pan de Muertos, figures recombine and form images, linking the funeral rite to collective memory and a critique of tradition. In 1923, a photograph captured students of Vassar College practicing Greek dance, an expression of the classical revival in academia. The group performed coordinated steps outdoors, with tunics inspired by Hellenic style. The scene documents the convergence of physical education and the arts on American campuses in the interwar period. In Birka, 25 kilometers west of present-day Stockholm, archaeologists recorded in a female tomb a Viking Age ring. Dated to about 1,200 years ago, the artifact bears an Arabic inscription that connects the Baltic to the Abbasid Caliphate. On the band is inscribed "For Allah," evidence of commercial and cultural exchanges in the 9th century. In 1977 in New York, a photograph recorded the meeting between Debbie Harry, leader of Blondie, and Joey Ramone, vocalist of the Ramones. The image reveals the coexistence between scenes and clubs of punk and marks a link between the underground circuit and its public projection. This brings us to the end of our video. Subscribe, leave your like, and follow for the next chapters.